Trials of Osiris. I know several people probably clicked on this video and was like, dude, how's he not know about Erentil? It's been talked about so much since Forsaken launched, but for my own sake and before we get started with this video, I just want to mention that I'm old school to using Erintel, and everybody's going to be called a puss for using any type of weapon when it comes to Crucible, and I was actually one of the first people to make a God Roll Erintel video back when Forsaken Random Rolls first launched, so I'm old school to this. I was using it before it came hated and became cool at the same time. It just depends on how you look at it, but for PvE players that need some kind of fighting chance against those Crucible diehards that play and breathe the Crucible, I thought I'd put together a video about my Erintil that actually kind of negates the nerf that happened based on the stats and the data in the game and the kind of roll that I have. It's pretty much God rolled except for one thing, which we'll talk about that once I get into the video, but let's talk about the nerf first and exactly what happened to Erintil. I'm not even gonna lie, this nerf needed to happen because with the roll that I have, or really any Erintil, you can map people from like 70 meters away, which is pretty ridiculous and kind of made this a sniper rifle, fusion rifle kind of combo that had all kinds of tactical advantages over a ton of loadouts. So the fact that it did get nerfed, which was for the range, is perfectly fine with me, and I think it actually makes it function like a natural fusion rifle should do. But before the nerf, you could pull off shots like this all the time, and I used to do this all the time in the Crucible, the very few times that I actually did play. But let's hop into the roll that I have now, and I'll let you know how you can negate that nerf that actually happened. So out of the two scopes that I recommend for PvE, it's always going to be either Signal or Torch HS3. If you can get any one of those scopes, it's pretty bomb. But for Crucible, Impulse or Torch HS3. The reason why you want Impulse is because it comes with a +6 hidden zoom. The hidden zoom doesn't help you with accuracy or anything. It just kind of zooms in where you can see farther down the scope whenever you're, trying to line your shot up basically. But it actually gives the gun a +12 range by having that on. But Torch will give it a +13 with a +3 hidden zoom, but I really just recommend the Torch for PvE and then the Impulse scope for PvP gameplay. That's what I have on this fusion, the Impulse. So if you can get that kind of roll, really godly to have. The second perk that I have is going to be Under Pressure. Basically what that means is it's always going to be procced because you start with 2 rounds, and the lower the magazine, the more accurate this fusion rifle gets. So when you combine the Impulse scope with the Under Pressure, it's pretty bomb. And then when you go on to the third perk, which is going to be High Impact Reserves, it's even more beast because you're always doing bonus damage. The masterwork that I have for it is for charge time, and by having the high impact reserves mixed with that masterwork, it lets me shoot the gun faster and basically get it as if it didn't have a charge time masterwork with that decreased damage that it gets by having a charge time masterwork. So it offsets the damage nerf that the gun has by having that on, so it's basically like a faster firing 860 damage type. Since they did nerf the target acquisition a little bit, I'm using a targeting adjuster. If you haven't watched my targeting adjuster video, basically what that does is it aligns the bolts in the shape of the target that you're shooting. So if you shoot it at like their kneecaps or whatever, all the spray of the bolts coming out will kind of line itself up to the shape of the body or the guardian or whatever target you're shooting it at. And I like that better than counterbalance, because if you do counterbalance and you have a target that's going, left to right or whatever, it's just going to kick up and down, and it's not going to do that line up to their body or whatever, and you won't be able to catch the target as easily as the targeting adjuster will add for you. And it helps also in range air shots and there's all kinds of different types of shots on the fly when you're stabbing it at targets and things like that. That's why I use it over the counterbalance. And like I was saying, this is a video for really just PvE players that need that kind of fighting chance. I use Truth as my heavy. I know it's kind of a cheap weapon, but Hardlight and a lot of other weapons are kind of cheap as well, and you really can't get away with using really any type of weapon in the Crucible without getting called some kind of cheapskate unless you're using Sturm and Drang or something like that. So I'm pretty much always using Truth the few times that I do get heavy ammo, and then when it comes to trying to combat people that are using Hardlight and all these other meta type weapons, you really got to start charging that fusion rifle immediately, because if you waste your time, you are going to get caught up and not be able to kill things because you're going to get outslayed when you're trying to charge. Having good handling on the Truth as well as the tracking is what I really like. When you need to get those shots off really quick, that's what the handling is going to do. The fire and pull speed is going to be that much quicker versus like a lower handling rocket, and those milliseconds in trials definitely add up. When you're using any type of fusion rifle, you really just have to do a lot of trust shots. That means, sometimes you just gotta start firing it and just trust the weapon is gonna go where it needs to go. And that's really what you get out of the weapon loadout that I'm using, is I know that Truth is gonna have that tracking and that blast radius to take out multiple targets by the proximity of it. But when it comes to battling somebody with a shotgun or, anything like that, making sure that you're charging ahead of time and then just trusting it when you turn that corner and sweep around When it comes to trials, you're going to see a lot of this same loadout and people thinking they're beasts because they're using hard light and killing people by getting like trillions of chances to hit target because the thing's just bouncing all over the place. I think Burnout was a horrible map to start trials on, but hopefully with different maps in the future, there won't be very many possibilities for people to just start spamming it around corners or team firing it. So I'm not a huge fan of hard light. I think it's OP, not gonna lie, but I mean, if you're gonna say that Erentil's cheap, hard light's one of the cheapest guns to use in the game right now when it comes to Trials of Osiris. I'm sorry, it just is. I'm not hating on people that are going to use this weapon because I know people are going to use it because of the fact that you can just shoot it anywhere and have a chance to hit some kind of a target. But if you do decide to use that loadout, don't be one of those teabagging kids because you didn't have any talent in that shot, bro. You just shot it down a hallway and it bounced 800 million different ways and it happened to catch a target. That doesn't require that much talent in my book. But with the fusion rifle nerf on Erintel, you do have to have fusion rifle skills to be able to maintain this weapon and outslay a lot of the metas that are in trials right now. But like I said, everybody is going to call some kind of user of any weapon some kind of a puss for using it. That's just the way trials and the competitive nature of players is, and that's how it's always going to be. But again, if you do want to farm out this Erintel in the menagerie, this is the role that I recommend. The only thing that's not godly about the role that I have is I wish that it had particle repeater or projection fuse instead of ionized battery. Ionized is pretty much useless in trials because you don't get that much ammo. And I don't actually like to carry too much ammo in the magazine because then it hurts the under pressure perk. So I normally don't like to put more than 3 in the magazine at a time. It really doesn't matter that much because of the impulse scope, the targeting adjuster mod, and the high impact reserves, and just the, you know, magnetism this gun naturally has. It doesn't hurt it too bad. The under pressure just really makes it lock on pretty hardcore. But when it comes to Erintel and the rolls you can get, I think this is one you need to farm out aside from that ionized battery. Try to get projection fuse or try to get particle repeater, but I mean either way, it's still a godly fusion rifle that anybody could use. Or you can get that Torch HS3 scope if you don't want to have that extra zoom, but I do think the impulse and having that +6 zoom really does pay off in trials, especially with some other maps we're probably going to see in the future. Having that extra, you know, zoom to kind of lock your shots does help, even though it doesn't help the magnetism of the weapon. It's still OP. When it comes to any exotics that I normally use either Getaway Artist or Verity's Brow, and then whenever my super is charged, I use Bottom Tree Arc. I usually swap it to Crown of Tempest so I can get that 28-second super instead of a 15-second super. That really does help out, so anytime I know that I'm going to use my super in a round, I'll always swap to Crown of Tempest, or right when it charges, I'll pause and, you know, swap it over real quick and maybe have somebody guard me because the load times on pause screens are pretty ridiculous on console. But when it comes to trying to battle shotgunners and stuff around corners, just trust the weapon, start charging it, walk around that corner, and just sweep and stab it in that general direction, and you can pretty much just trust this gun to always do what it needs to be doing. Some of you may or may not like Erintel, but even post-nerf, if you get the right roll on it, it's not going to hurt it that much. I don't even really see it as a nerf. I mean, the gun should have never been able to map people 70 meters away and, you know, have ridiculous types of shots that it used to could pull off. It just seems like a normal fusion rifle now, and you got to be in normal fusion rifle ranges. Just pretend that you have like a 660 fusion or whatever, you know what I mean? Don't try to actually snipe people with it anymore. But that is why I kind of use Getaway Artist, because if I am shooting at targets that are farther away and I do catch them with like 3 or 4 bolts, but I had too much damage fall off, the Getaway Artist Arc Soul will actually finish them off. So that really helps if you're a PvE player trying to compete in, you know, trials stressful environment. This loadout really does help me out. I'm actually not trying to go flawless right now. I could have been flawless several times last week, but I was trying to farm out that rocket launcher, and I didn't want the fusion rifle by getting 7 wins to be put in my loot pool. So anytime we got close to that, I would just reset my card again and then start over so I can get tokens to try to farm out the rocket launcher. And that's some advice you could use too. If there's a weapon that you want, and maybe it's on the game 5 win, and you're not tripping about going to the lighthouse, like me, I don't really care about it that much. I'm main PvE, I just want PvE weapons and PvE armor builds and things like that. So getting that rocket launcher last week was really important to me. I'm trying to get the God Roll, the sleepless version, or I'm trying to get field prep and clown cartridge, or tracking in clusters. Either one of those is fine with me. The one that I have right now, which I'm not really hating on it that much, I have field prep and shield disorient. So the times that I do shoot it against void shielded targets, it is going to help out pretty clutch, especially in Grandmaster Nightfalls and stuff like that, which I am going to be talking about weapons that I'm going to be using, as well as an OP armor build you can use in Grandmaster as well. But we'll talk more about that soon. I just kind of wanted to cover Erintel to let you all know that it's still a beastly weapon. It just has realistic range now versus what it used to have. So as long as you're not trying to map people and treat it like a sniper rifle, this fusion rifle is still a competitor in my book, especially for PvE players that want to play PvP. I think having one Erentil user on the team isn't a bad idea. I don't think everybody should have an Erentil on. I think then you'd probably have like a struggling team. But if you had one sniper or shotgunner and then an Erentil user, or even a hard light and Erentil user mixed with Arc Souls or whatever, PvE players need that kind of advantage and stuff, and that's really what I was just trying to help out with today, Guardians. But you all take it easy. If you want to hit subscribe for more content, highly appreciate that. Or you can join our B squad, help support this channel so I can make more content for all you bros. I will be making a lot of videos. I am working on a lot of videos right now. I'm just waiting to get more information before I actually release them so I don't speak too soon. But thanks for joining, Guardian. Share this video with other people so the word can get around so you can help me grow this channel, Guardians. Y'all take it easy. I'll see you all in the next video next time.
In space.